Now, some companies plan to make COVID-19 vaccination mandatory for employees, but the question is, can residential estates do the same? Some are questioning if trustees of community housing schemes can force residents to vaccinate. To help us answer this is Specialist Community Schemes Attorney Marina Constas. Thank you for your time and good morning to you. That's the big question. Most people living in those communal estates, residential areas, and they want to know if indeed, Marina, they should be concerned, especially those who perhaps don't even want to vaccinate, if it would be enforced on them.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I think it's definitely a question on everyone's lips, but as the position reflects now, we don't have any court decisions or directives from the community scheme ombud or even appeal cases to give any kind of directive on this matter. I think at this stage, though, we can really be pretty sure that the trustees of a community scheme, of a sectional title scheme, or the directors of a homeowners association are not in a position to enforce this kind of rule or sort of mandatory blanket vaccination policy on anyone in a scheme. So we're governed by, in sectional title, the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act. And that says that you can make rules which can be enforced, but this kind of rule may be viewed to be unreasonable or discriminatory. And it's not only that the trustees can't even do that, it's got to be the entire body corporate by either a special resolution or a unanimous resolution who put this rule forward. It doesn't stop there, because if it is seen to be discriminatory or unreasonable in any way, then you can take the matter to the ombud, who can overrule the rule and say, look, it's, we're not allowed to have that rule. I mean, I fully understand the fact that we need to vaccinate and the quicker the better. But at the end of the day, you've also got to look at the situation that a sectional title scheme, you're an owner. It's distinguishable from an organization like a big company or, for example, a restaurant where you have to show your vaccination passport. You own a section, you own an undivided share in the common property. So you can't be denied walking down the stairwell of a scheme or swimming in the swimming pool or perhaps going to the clubhouse.
Yeah.
But that doesn't derogate from the trustees' responsibility, and it's a serious responsibility to comply with the Disaster Management Act and regulations, which say face masks, sanitizing, social distancing. I mean, that's imperative in a scheme. But yeah, the blanket mandatory vaccination, I think it's highly unlikely that you're going to have to be able to implement that.
Yeah, so I think for obviously tenants right now, even homeowners, the most important, I think, at least for me, is to at least understand that there's no legal basis so far, for sectional title, trustees or homeowners association directors to mandate vaccination among residents, right? There is no law at this point that says that it's mandatory for them. So that's important information for them to understand legally.
Yes, 100%. I mean, you've got all sorts of laws. It's a complicated issue. It's not as simple as it might seem. You might even, you have the POPI Act as well. Would your personal health information also expand in a sectional title complex for trustees to know about it? And I think it's more of a possibility that the Community Scheme Ombud Service might issue some sort of directive relating to visitors who come into a scheme. Perhaps, maybe there's a very big party at the clubhouse, and you want to start seeing vaccination certificates and that in regard to that. But when it comes to owners have very strong proprietary rights, and to deny them that could very well be seen to be discriminatory.
Yeah, but also just in terms of visitors, not speaking about the tenants or even the homeowners, Marina, could trustees or even body corporates perhaps introduce a rule that says, visitors need to produce proof of vaccination, or they have to comply with what you mentioned earlier on, those regulations around face masks and social distancing. So even though they may not necessarily sort of enforce, if I could use that word, on tenants and homeowners, but however the visitors that have to still share some of the common amenities like clubhouses, pool areas, could they possibly implement and introduce those rules?
Well, they've already introduced quite a few rules in many schemes that I deal with to say how visitors can enter a scheme and how they are subject to the rules of the scheme with regard to the disaster management regulations. So that we've already seen. It is a possibility that you will be allowed to look at handling visitors in a different way and showing vaccination cards and certificates. I think in future we'll have to wait and see, because as I said, at the moment we've got there's no legal basis upon which to rely to kind of enforce that. But we definitely need to get those numbers down, and we need to look and, extreme times call for extreme measures, but at the same time, we've got to create that balance legally and not overreach. Trustees can't overreach and decide to, act or exceed their powers, because then they can be taken to the ombud as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. Very valuable information and very insightful. Marina, Constas, I appreciate your time this morning.